Today, we're going to use a very useful analogy to connect objective personality and attachment theory. And that idea is volatility. So, by understanding volatility, we're going to be able to understand how our social world, our social relationships can have both high volatility at times and low volatility at times, and how that may be affecting and correlating with social types. We have our 4 different attachment styles that we're going to go over, and each one of those correlate with a social type as well as a corresponding level of volatility. We're going to dive into this concept and see how it can help us really understand social types as well as attachment theory. One of the questions we like to keep in mind with this is, are attachment styles genetic? In understanding attachment styles, there seems to be a nurture component as well as a nature component. It's important to know that a lot of the nurture, and this is a disclaimer, it's important to know that when it comes to attachment styles, people are working very hard in therapy on the nurture aspects as well as other aspects. So basically, I just want to have a disclaimer to say that if you're working in therapy as a client or a professional therapist, these ideas are very exploratory and they may not be exactly what you're looking for. So basically, we're asking, are attachment styles genetically predetermined, kind of like hair color or eye color? Again, the point of this video is going to be to see if understanding social volatility will help you understand attachment styles as well as social types. So this video is going to serve as connective tissue to relate attachment theory, attachment styles with social types and objective personality. Now, these ideas, I'm seeing them connect, and volatility is an idea that could help connect and bridge some of these things, some of these concepts. So here's a refresher on attachment styles. We have the 4 attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful. Attachment styles are determined by where you land on 2 measurements of anxiousness as well as avoidance. So how anxious are you and how avoidant are you? If you're both anxious and avoidant, you'll be fearful. If you're only one of those, then you'll be either avoidant or anxious. If you have low anxiety and low avoidance, then you're considered to be securely attached. So that is just the quick refresher on the 4 different attachment styles. Now, in the last video, part 1, check it out if you haven't, I related these 4 attachment styles to the 4 different social types. So anxious is number 2, which was known as generalizing. Avoidant is number 3, which is known as specializing. The securely attached people are related to the tribe-motivated number 4s. The fearful avoidants are related to the self-motivated number 1s. Here's a different image of these 4 attachment styles and their corresponding social types. You know, I thought about it and whether or not this hypothesis could hold water, and I think it really does. I'm seeing more evidence in my research that backs up the social type correlation with attachment styles. And so that's something that I'll need to keep researching, and I'll share evidence when I get a good enough amount. But that's something to keep an eye out for if you're really curious. And I'll just take a moment to say that whatever I'm doing here is more on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge, the avant-garde style of objective personality. This is not something Dave and Shan talk about. This is not something anyone talks about, really. These are new ideas. And so if these ideas are making you feel weird, it's because no one else is talking about them. So if you're nervous, it makes sense because there's a lot of research that's left to do. These are bold claims, and even if they are true, how helpful are they going to be without deeper insights and deeper research that can stand the test of time? This particular video, we're going to be diving into volatility. But why do we care about volatility? So volatility is kind of like a finance term. Why am I trying to bring it into this? It's totally not because we typed Michael Saylor a few weeks ago in Objective Personality, and he just kept mentioning volatility. But we care about volatility because even in our social relationships, it captures the idea of how turbulent personal relationships can be. And so volatility itself, especially high volatility, is chaotic. And when it's low volatility, then it has a sense of order. Volatility is a measure of entropy. Social volatility introduces chaos in the social order. That's referring to high volatility, usually. So just as with attachment styles and social types, volatility has dimensions. Of course, there's a finance dimension, which is a whole different story. That's not relevant. But what we're looking at today is volatility has dimensions in social relationships. So the anxiety is measured by the volatility around events and processes around people. So that's more like your things, your observer stuff as it relates to people. And there's social volatility with respect to the sense of the self and others. So that's more your decider angle of, are you avoiding people or not? Whereas the other one captures whether you're anxious around people or not. It's really important to highlight that volatility is neither good nor bad. High volatility can be really important and good at times. It can also be awful and feel bad. But it's true that, especially by the language of attachment styles, high volatility is often seen as bad. Low volatility in relationships is often seen as good. That's why the secure attachment is generally low volatility. It's like when someone makes a mistake, you don't really care too much. You don't let it affect you or bother you that much. That's low volatility, and it's also seen as securely attached. High volatility may have higher standards. So it may be seen as a destructive force. You may see someone break up with somebody else or fire them, and it could seem like high volatility. But especially if you've worked with people who are not doing their job, sometimes high volatility is the answer. Sometimes it makes sense for your coworker that's lazy. Sometimes it makes sense for them to get fired. Now, that's a controversial thing, but yeah, it depends on the situation, whether you want high or low volatility. So it's neither good nor bad. Misunderstanding social volatility can lead to negative outcomes. Without understanding why a situation calls for high or low volatility, it can lead to judgment, isolation, frustration, stuckness with or without people. It can lead to anxiety and avoidance ultimately, both short term and long term. So understanding social volatility can lead to positive outcomes because you'll understand which situations call for high or low volatility. So one side tangent is I live in New York, and sometimes you hear these emergency vehicles. You'll hear these cop cars and fire trucks, and that's a very good example of high volatility situations. It indicates that, hey, there's an emergency, there's something that needs to be responded to, and so they put the siren up, and then they push all the traffic out of the way, and they address a situation that's unfolding, whether it's a fire or a robbery or a murder or whatever. Sometimes you just have a lot of volatility. And sometimes there is a need for high volatility. There's a need for a siren. There's a need to address a big problem with a certain level of prioritization, a certain level of importance. So to kind of help you know what I'm talking about, I have some images here that I'm going to go through. But yeah, just to visualize volatility. So the red line here is high volatility. The green line has low volatility. So there's a low price swing, that's of course related to finance, but that's what I'm seeing with relationships. How many times have you felt like you're on a roller coaster when it comes to a certain person's emotions? That's high volatility. Here's another thing where it says, some people are crazy. They have high volatility, but there's a higher potential for returns. Sometimes people have low volatility. They're easy to get along with, but there's lower potential for returns and it's lower risk. Now it's up to you. Both strategies can work out, and you may need a mix of both high and low volatility people in your life. Here's a visualization of one that's a little bit lower volatility and one that's higher, because the maximum and the minimum are farther apart. The blue line is actually higher volatility, and the red line, it doesn't really deviate too much from this line here. And so it's a low volatility. And of course, you can have high volatility periods balanced between low volatility periods. So this is some stock market thing, but it's important to measure the overall direction. Sometimes things are pretty relaxed and chill, but then the situation of a person you measure, it's just not doing well. It's every couple months, maybe you have a friendship that's in decline that it's mostly okay, but then something bad happens, and then that trend continues. Maybe someone in your life is continuously proving themselves to be untrustworthy, and it's balanced between periods of stability. But the blue arrows could be reversed, and maybe someone is becoming a better friend or a better person to have some relationship with. The relationships go through these ebbs and flows and these periods of volatility. So it's good to just visualize volatility. Yeah, here's another one with the stock market. Okay. Anyway, so back to this volatility. It is chaotic. It is a measure of chaos. It's a measure of entropy around social relationships here. So we can call it social volatility. So we can call this social volatility. This is a measure of how chaotic or how much entropy is there with respect to anxiety and with respect to avoidance. It's important to keep in mind that volatility is neither good nor bad. And understanding it can lead to positive outcomes. So now I'm going to go over some gifts of what it looks like to have high versus low volatility in things and people. The observer one is more of a measure of anxiety. So high volatility in things, you got your fireman who is rescuing people from a very volatile situation. But there are a lot of times when people respond aggressively to a situation that is actually calm. So sometimes you need someone to come and save you like this, and then sometimes you don't. So this is high volatility in things. That's going to be referring to anxious people, anxious types, who are able to answer lots of phone calls. They're maybe talking to 20 people a day or 100 people a day. And whoever these people are, they're definitely able to harness the volatility in things and the different processes and events that are going on with respect to people. Again, there's this guy who is kind of a manager and just micromanaging. That's a very high volatility approach to management, is to micromanage, because you are checking every little task every 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You're checking on your employees' work. That's just, there's some new project where you have to drop your old project. Maybe your project gets killed and you have to work on the latest thing that some manager or some director executive wants you to do. So this is just high volatility. You can experience this at work. Yeah, and you can experience this in relationships where people with high volatility in things, they kind of expect you to respond very quickly to changes in the environment. They definitely allow their social relationships to be affected by a high response rate. They expect a high response rate from people. So high volatility in things is something that I'll see the social type number ones and twos doing, basically generalizing. You can see this with Elon Musk. He's firing a lot of people, or he's getting rid of a lot of federal workers right now. And it's a lot of volatility. It's a lot of chaos to be introducing into the system. At sometimes it can yield good opportunities, but sometimes it's heroic. But other times it's really micromanaging, and it's making the world a worse place, like this guy. All right, now we're going to cover high volatility in self and others. So this is going to be the number ones and number threes with the flex or the self motivated. So yeah, high volatility in self and others means that you have high standards for yourself. You have high standards for other people. You might have an accountability mirror where you're checking, what you're accountable for, what your standards are. Are you meeting your goals? And you're able to motivate yourself, right? And so you're holding yourself to these standards. You're holding other people to those standards, and you're very disappointed in yourself. You're very disappointed in other people when they're not meeting their goals, when they're not doing what they say they're going to do. Giving yourself high standards and kind of doing accountability mirror or something like this. And just, you had David Goggins there, and basically holding yourself accountable for your high standards that you're setting, and you're also holding other people to high standards too at times. So that's why, for example, Donald Trump will fire people because they're not living up to his standards. So this is like having a high volatility with yourself and with other people. So the number ones and threes are going to have it the most, and then sometimes you'll see even number twos and number fours have it, of course. But specifically, so what you're not likely to do is you're not likely to say like, oh, I was just having a bad day, let me just do it tomorrow. You're able to motivate yourself. You're able to push others to be better, to do better, and expect more from yourself. Expect more from the individuals, whether it's yourself or others. this can cause a certain level of avoidance. If someone isn't doing what they say they're going to do, and you may just avoid them at a certain point. So low volatility with things. So this one I feel like is the most characterized by the number threes, but also number fours will have it, where it's basically like there's no rush in getting things done. There's no need to get something done at a certain time. It's going to take however long it's going to take. I don't really care if there's a long line or there's a lot of people waiting for me for this. Just take your sweet time. And yeah, it could be pretty funny, but you can get a lot of good, high quality work done in this way too. So low volatility with things can be very good. I could have come up with some better images here, but it's a demon for me, so it's a difficult thing for me. So it's hard for me to even imagine what it's like to just go slow. And but there's a lot of cool things you can do if you're taking your time with everything that you're doing. But yeah, low volatility with things. Again, that's going to be your number fours and number threes, aka your securely attached and avoidant people are going to have low volatility with things. Now, low volatility between self and others. So low volatility with yourself and with others is going to mean that you're going to take it easy on yourself. You're going to take it easy on your friends. You're not going to be such a hard ass when people don't do what they say they're going to do. You're going to be able to relate much more easily. You're going to be able to make jokes. You're going to be able to poke fun at people. If someone took your cheese, you're not going to be that upset at them. If someone took a bite out of your watermelon, I don't know, whatever is going on here. Basically, it's easier to have friends because you're not being so hard on yourself and others, and it's easy, it's simple, and you're not really expecting all that much. You're not making sure everyone's living up to some high standard. You have, again, rather than a roller coaster, you're more like a calm person who is just able to flow with how things are going. So that's low volatility with self and others. To sum it all up, I'm seeing that volatility is a very good concept to relate to attachment styles themselves. The securely attached people, we just saw those people at the end, is just chill with people, chill with the process, and whereas the number ones are crazy, chaotic with the process, chaotic with the things, as well as chaotic with the people, and having very high standards for the self. There is a risk reward trade off between the levels of volatility, but it's also important to know how these different attachment styles can contribute to your relationship chaos or lack thereof. If volatility is attachment and attachment is social types, then volatility will relate to social types as well. So there we have it. You got highest volatility as a number one. You got high volatility in things as a number two. You got high volatility in yourself with number three. And you got low volatility across the board if you're a number four. Attachment styles and social types are related as far as I can tell. But again, this is a hypothesis. And so you can't really take it to the bank. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that's my full disclosure. For me, the hypothesis is checking out that attachment styles are directly correlated with social types. It's been a few weeks, and from the evidence and the data I've been gathering, it does seem like attachment styles and social types are directly one-to-one correlated. So it's just a matter of gathering the evidence at this time. And I'm no scientist, so I'm not going to actually do a research study of my own. I'm not going to do that. But as far as what I can tell, I can see a lot of the direct relationships between attachment styles and social types. So good luck to you. I mean, if you get it, you got it. And if you don't, then keep going with whatever peer-reviewed journal, studies, research you have going. And I hope it serves you well enough. As far as the new topics of exploration go, I'm seeing that this is where things are going. And so that's where I'm putting my line in the sand. So it is exploratory. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know. So that's what I'm seeing. It's really hard for me to explain things. I will do a better job next time. But for now, this is, I really wanted to share this analogy because it's super helpful to me. For me, seeing things like the stock market, relating that to relationships, it is making things look a lot clearer. It's very helpful to me in my own life to see number ones as being highly volatile with both things for anxiety and with people for avoidance. And again, if we're visualizing volatility, sometimes a situation will call for a high volatility response, and sometimes a situation will call for a low volatility response. But generally, you want to have a calm life, especially as you're getting older, especially as you want to have more stability in your life. You want to progress towards a lower volatility approach to life. But there will be times when you want that excitement, you want those opportunities, you want to take a risk, and that is the time when you can engage in more high volatility behaviors. But again, you may want to engage with those in a safe way, and you want to, there's a way to go about it. I'll definitely be doing future videos about this topic after a significant research phase. But honestly, give me your questions, give me your topics of like, are you guys getting this? Are you understanding it? Do you relate with this? Does the idea of volatility help you? Or is this kind of like a weird way? Was it very weird for me to use this concept to relate social types with attachment theory? Can you guys see that you have high volatility in some areas and some low volatility in some areas when it comes to your social relationships? And most importantly, are you seeing the volatility in yourself when it comes to things and people? Anyway, I hope that this idea can help you think and brainstorm in different ways for your own benefit. Thank you for watching, and like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. I'm going to keep exploring new things, but I might try to have more chill videos and go over some known information for once. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.